Good morning. My name is Patricia Devine, and I am a member of the Worship and Music Committee. My pronouns are he, her, and hers. Welcome to our virtual service with the First Parish Plymouth congregation. These services will also be posted on our Facebook page and on YouTube. The first part of our service is recorded. The benediction will follow the closing. Then we will go into our candles of joy and concern, which is unrecorded. Our service today is led by the exceptionally talented Emily Browder, Melville, and Paul Melville. Our minister, Reverend Art Lavoie, will return to the pulpit in late August. We hope you stay for our virtual coffee hour and conversation after the service. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever you believe, wherever you are on your journey, come walk with us this hour. Let us walk together this hour.
The call to worship this morning is adapted from Psalm 133. How rare it is, how lovely this fellowship of those who meet together virtually. Please join in singing hymn number 298, Wake Now, My Senses. Paul, can you go back to the first slide of that? Perfect. Thank you. Wake now, my senses, and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in awe. Keep with the web of creation your vow, giving, receiving as love shows us how. Wake now, my reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Wake now, compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take as your neighbor both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Wake now, my conscience, with justice thy guide. Join with all people whose rights are denied. Take not for granted thy privileged place. God's love embraces the whole human race. Wake now, my vision of ministry clear. Brighten my pathway of radiance here. Mingle my calling with all those who share. Work toward a planet transformed by our care.
morning, everyone. Please join me with the words of the chalice lighting. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great
covenant.
To dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, to speak the truth in love, and to help one another.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Paul Melville, and I've been an active member of First Parish for about 15 years, and I'm on the transition team here this year. I feel privileged to be able to share a little bit about my experience in this interesting time. There's so much to say, and yet I'm not sure where to begin. I had planned to talk about how the murder of George Floyd at the hands of the Minneapolis police has brought Black Lives Matter front and center for me. Perhaps a little about how I want to use my white privilege to dismantle white privilege. About my work facilitating conversations about culture amongst people of color in Dorchester, and my experience of reading an advanced draft of my friend's forthcoming book. It's a novelization of his great-grandfather's life. His great-grandfather was born a slave in Virginia in the 1850s. But I'm not sure that I should talk about this just yet. I think it's important, as a white man, that I keep listening and that I keep learning. So for now, I want to leave it at Black Lives Matter. I will tell you, remind you perhaps, that as part of a personal credo service last summer, I told many of you about some one-on-one adventures I'd taken with each of my 3 children. In particular, a 2-day jaunt through the White Mountains National Forest with 5-year-old Jane, and a weekend of go-karts, bumper boats, and ice cream with 14-year-old Jordan. These screen-free escapades were true highlights of my 2019. As the spring of 2020 approached, we were polishing our travel plans. 17-year-old Andrew was excited to see Hyde Park, New York for a campus visit at the Culinary Institute of America. And Jordan hoped to visit Chicago with me and Montreal with Emily. I surprised the teens with tickets to see Billy Joel perform live at Fenway Park this summer. Well, as John Lennon wrote in Beautiful Boy, life is what happens to you while you're making other plans. Life has certainly happened to us this year. Campus visits have gone virtual, concerts are postponed until 2021 or beyond, and most interstate travel is risky, complicated, and discouraged. Like many of you, I have found a great deal of my day-to-day life now happening on screens, often in something called Zoom video conferencing, like this church service. It's been an interesting adjustment, to say the very least. For those who don't know, most of my professional work is in facilitating parent support groups, teaching parent education classes, training professionals around Massachusetts to do these same things, and supporting and supervising other parent educators and parent support professionals in Boston and Cape Cod. Because I have the skills and experience that people look for with technology, I've been very busy these past 4 months. While some of my teaching in prisons and hospitals has been canceled or postponed indefinitely, there has been a ton of work in transitioning parent education curriculums and in-person trainings to the Zoom platform. I've also been busy convincing funders that this is a viable way to teach and learn, and supporting others who have varied aptitudes and comfort levels when it comes to technology. It is not an exaggeration to say I have been living on Zoom. My escapes from the screen have been reading Harry Potter with Jane, walking in nature, and practicing mindfulness. For about 7 years, I've been working at having a regular mindfulness practice. I've taken a mindfulness-based stress reduction course, been on several mindfulness retreats, tried many of the apps you may have heard of, read over a dozen books on the subject, and tried to sit mindfully, both alone and with others, as much as practical. The idea is very simple. Practice paying attention, on purpose, in the moment, without judgment. When the mind wanders, and it will, simply notice this digression. Gently bring your attention back to the present moment. No judgment. Studies show that doing this regularly decreases the size and sensitivity of the amygdala, that the fight or flight center of our brain that sounds the alarm when a life-threatening wild animal or well-intentioned but ego-threatening partner approaches. I said that mindfulness is simple, and it is, but it's not easy. At least for me, it's not. When I practice regularly, I do feel like I can slow the world down and respond thoughtfully, rather than react quickly to unexpected change. It's kind of a superpower. Last summer, I committed to a year-long mindful awareness instructor course that I hoped would help me to strengthen my own practice. Not counting the prerequisite work that I had previously done, the course was comprised of 56 hours of class time, mostly on a yoga mat or cushion, thousands of pages of reading, the writing of several self-reflection papers, observing a teacher lead a 16-hour class over a 2-month span, and then student teaching a similar 16-hour class over another 2 months. All this would qualify me to teach mindfulness to others, and as I said, hopefully help me to strengthen my own practice. The first 6 months of this went pretty much according to plan. It felt good and right for me to leave my phone in the car for 5-hour classes on Saturdays. I enjoyed reading about mindfulness and its effect on the brain, and I had some on and off success with making my own practice more regular. That was September 2019 through March of 2020. Oof. Now what? Everything closed. The schools and church buildings and libraries where we practice mindfulness were all shuttered, and for who knew how long. But I still had 3 instructor class sessions to attend. I was only halfway through observing the weekly class in Brewster, and I hadn't yet begun my stint of actual student teaching. Could mindfulness really be done over video conferencing? In front of computer screens? I was not optimistic. It felt as though simply trying it might open some impossible to close rift in the space-time continuum. As it turns out, mindful awareness classes and group practices do work really well over this medium. Like First Parish's Sunday services, the class I was observing missed a week in March while they absorbed the new reality and figured out how to continue. But they did figure out how to continue. My remaining instructor sessions were modified to fit this new reality, and now I'm halfway through student teaching an adult course that was planned and promoted as virtual/online from the very beginning. By the end of this month, I'll be a certified mindful awareness educator and can add another delicious offering to the menu of topics people invite me to teach, train, and present on. More importantly, I have actually strengthened my own practice. I'm so excited about this transition, which I never would have predicted, that I'd like you to join me in trying this for just a minute or so, right now. If you aren't already, please take a moment to sit up straight, not too rigid, but not slouching over. I'll be gentle, I promise. I like to imagine a helium balloon gently pulling me up by the crown of my head. Now, if you're comfortable closing your eyes, please do so. Just gently, don't squeeze them shut. If not, I encourage you to focus on something a few feet in front of you, not your computer screen, and just soften your gaze. Breathe normally, but notice your breath. How does it feel when that breath enters your body? How does the breath feel when it leaves the body? Just noticing. I'm going to ring a bell, and I want you to notice the beginning, the middle, and all the way to the end of the bell's sound. Now noticing other sounds, perhaps in the room where you are, perhaps further away. Now noticing your sense of touch. Notice where the feet make contact with the earth or the floor. or whatever surface they're touching. Maybe you notice how your feet feel in your shoes or your socks or your slippers. Notice where other parts of the body are making contact with the world. Perhaps you can feel some of your clothing or your seat as it rests in your chair. I'm going to ring the bell again. I want you to listen all the way to the end of the bell's sound. And then, when you're ready, gently open your eyes and rejoin us here. Congratulations! You have just practiced mindful awareness. If you liked that, or if you think you'd like to try more, there are mindfulness groups available every day right on our computers, and many of them are free. First Parish offers its own morning mindfulness 6 days a week at 8 a.m. You can use the same link you use for Sunday services. I attend a mindfulness group sit on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings. And with no need to commute, change, etc. before hitting the cushion, the excuses have dropped away, and I find myself starting most work days practicing mindfulness. When I practice regularly, I find that I'm more patient, that I have more control over my implicit biases, and that I sleep better. I hope you find similar superpowers for yourself. Thank you. Today's musical reflection is Sarah Dan Jones' Meditation on Breathing, sung in 3 parts by Emily Browder Melville. If our tech guy could bring that up, that would be helpful. Let's see.
Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. When I breathe in, I'll breathe out. When I breathe in, I'll breathe out. When I breathe in, I'll breathe out. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. Hi, everyone. So, can you hear me? Great, thank you. So, I also want to say thank you very much for the opportunity to lead the service and to reflect on what these last few months have meant for our family and what our experiences have been. It was really lovely last week to hear about Jen and Dave's deepening into family time and their awakening really to the natural world right outside their door. We are also so thankful to live in such a beautiful place like Plymouth, Pawtuxet, as we should be calling ourselves, and to be connected to this church community and to have purposeful work in our lives. But to be really honest, the thing that just sort of flooded forward when I started to write this week is kind of a confession about how deeply challenging it has been to be working from home and be homeschooling and parenting all at the same time. The phrase competing priorities is a very real phrase for me these days, and I know not just for me. Raising Jane, putting enough energy into my job, taking care of the house, connecting with Paul, and really grasping for ways to make this experience of quarantine meaningful and positive has kind of left me in a constant state of stress and anxiety that is only really started to lift now that the school year is over. In reflecting and writing, what I can see now is that partly the reason that I worked so hard in the spring was because I felt really helpless in the face of the pandemic. I'm not someone who follows data or news or policies very well. So in the first few weeks of the crisis, I would throw myself into Jane's online learning and then my brand new online teaching with gusto, like with fervor, like we're gonna do this. And then once Jane was in bed, I'd sit on the couch and I'd ask Paul to tell me what was going on out in the world with the virus, with the closures, with the quarantine. I kind of needed him to translate the whole situation for me. And I would open myself up just a little bit to the weird, very unreal reality around us. And then I'd say, okay, that's it. I can't hear anymore. I'm going to go to sleep. I just can't handle it anymore. No, please, will you please watch another episode of Madam Secretary with me right now? So separately, homeschooling and even working from home and teaching from home have been extremely cool experiences. I had the honor of, encouraging Jane through her very own alphabet book with 4 words and drawings for each letter. And we got to play hopscotch for her math homework. I got to remember how you play hopscotch, which of course I had to look up on my phone. And, we made maps of our neighborhood. We really oriented sort of toward where we are in space and time. And it was just an incredible time. And without this pandemic, I honestly might not have really understood just how much Jane's reading is exploding. I just might not have had the time to know that. And then in terms of work, many of you know I'm a voice teacher and I have been a voice chair at a local community music school. I was incredibly inspired to see how eager all of the students have been to keep singing, to keep engaged, to keep connecting. And, despite the awkwardness and, the many sound-related challenges of online instruction. So, because they were eager and because I was scared and because it felt really important to be to be doing music. In my role as department chair, I transitioned our in-person competition to an online experience, which actually went really well. It was a lot of work, and I don't know that I could have done it without Paul's assistance at making all of the forms online for the judges who were all over the state. It's a very complicated process. I really honor all the kids who jumped in and made videos of themselves for the first time. And I also launched a virtual ensemble project, which you're actually going to see later. We're going to play it for you, to give all of our voice classes representing singers ages 7 to 87 a unifying project, something to do together. So the song choice for that project was totally obvious to me right away. It was, how can I keep from singing? And I'll share with you those lyrics. My life flows on in endless song, above earth's lamentation. I hear the real though far off song that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It finds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? So when I read that now, I'm going to diverge from my script a little bit to say that I think a lot of what this period has meant for me and has been discovering is that while we do have the soul who can and does rise above our tumult, there are lots of factors that have been pulling us into and keeping us bound in the tumult and in the fear and in the stress. Being able to manage the competing priorities meant very little sleep. It meant a constant state of stress in my body. It meant drinking too much coffee and inflicting some really serious reflux that made it really difficult to breathe. And I felt this really profound irony that we're in a respiratory pandemic, and then, my God, the irony of George Floyd being unable to breathe. We are in the tumult. We are in the tumult. And we need to find ways to rise above the tumult. So I know that I'm incredibly grateful to all of the people who are working so hard. I am not the only one overwhelmed and managing competing priorities. There's so much that so many of us have to do because it matters. It matters to have groceries. It matters to have health care. It matters can you imagine what Governor Baker is having to deal with right now? Figuring out, and all the administrators who have to figure out how we're gonna move forward. There's so much that needs to be done, and we are really in the tumult. I'll share that part of what made this a strange week to write this sermon was that I really kind of wasn't sure about some things that were going on in my life. And as of last Wednesday, I got the news that I've been furloughed in my position as voice department chair, which is not a big crisis. It's just confusing. It's more there's certainly more crises going on for people who are losing full-time income. I'm really poised and prepared to approach this furlough with gratitude that it can be an opportunity to hopefully continue to do the work to sort through my competing priorities, to put energy into my private practice, to find ways to keep singing so that singing can be something that lifts me out of the tumult and can be a practice to help make health really at the center of my life and hopefully our lives. It was so beautiful at the very beginning of the quarantine, how everyone was saying to each other, stay well, stay well. And I know I started hearing that less as we tried to return to business as usual. And I think business as usual is going to be very, I don't know what it is. So thank you for listening. We're gonna sing together, hopefully, I've Got Peace Like a River. And the reason that I chose I've Got Peace Like a River is that it's one of the songs that my small adult ensemble at South Shore Conservatory called Golden Voices sang a number of times as we would meet virtually. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. So please sing wherever you are. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. Love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean in my soul. Pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow in my soul. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow in my soul. I've got tears like raindrops. I've got tears like raindrops. I've got tears like raindrops. I've got tears like raindrops in my soul. I've got tears like raindrops. I've got tears like raindrops. I've got tears like raindrops in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain. mountain. I've got strength like a mountain in my soul.
Our benediction this week is adapted from Gaelic runes. Deep peace of the running wave to you. Deep peace of the flowing air to you. Deep peace of the quiet earth to you. Deep peace of the shining stars to you. Deep peace of the infinite peace to you. Amen. Blessed be.
My life goes on in endless song about her lamentation.
I hear the reel, the far-off smoke that hails a new creation.
Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ring. If I turn arrow in my soul, how can I keep from singing?